and different modules created internally. So there were interface problems with this German software central module, and the others developed internally. This was one thing. So for a start, even in goodwill, the numbers, the input didn't match the output. And the second thing was that this interface not working and the different type of the systems made that people could manipulate those systems and put the figures they wanted.
Oh, my God.
Yeah. So, pretty complex situation, yeah.
Very, very complex indeed. So what you're saying is that the system is bad for a reason, because frauds can kind of, I guess, go under the radar more easily then, correct?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Well, basically the system allows fraud to happen, allows manipulation. Worse than that, prevents you from detecting it and prevents you from having an audit trail so that you can go back and see who, originated the irregular transaction.
Now, what do you think that this, if it is the case then that money is being put away somewhere, so to speak, where is the money going? Is it still funding EU projects, or is it going down into the pockets of some of the Euro elites, so to speak?
Well, it's a bit of what I told you a moment ago. I think the funds are used for the purpose of the European hierarchy acquiring more power. So they can decide if they give subsidies to this or the other farmer, depending on what allegiance is showed. And the same with, structural funds.
Yes.
So it's difficult because there is no audit traceability, it would be impossible to trace to what exact pocket the money went.
Yes. No.
But the general impression is that, we are paying subsidies to the ones we decide are going to form part of a group, and refusing subsidies to those who will not, support the European federal government, so to speak.
Yes. Now, I don't know if you have any information about this, but what I've heard is that certain countries benefit greatly from being a part of the EU. I've heard Spain, Portugal, and many of the Eastern countries that have joined later in the EU, but countries, for instance, like the UK, Sweden, Denmark, Netherlands, and Germany are actually losing a lot and paying for this circus, as it were. Do you have any more information about this? Have you heard about this, Marta?
Well, yes. I mean, I have been involved in this, and yes, this is true. I mean, the biggest net contributor is Germany. The second biggest is the UK, and from there onwards, let us say that the northern countries in Europe are net contributors, and the southern member countries are mainly net recipients. Now, this is obviously changing radically because the eastern countries are coming in, and therefore all the subsidies that were being paid, for example, to Spain or to Portugal or to Ireland, are now going to the eastern countries, in which case Spain, for example, is now facing a very difficult situation because together with the subsidies, the European Union is also favoring that the industries go to the eastern countries. So, for example, Spain or Ireland, have started to lose their subsidies and will get no subsidies as from 2011. But at the same time, these countries are seeing their manufacturing facilities, industries go to the eastern countries where the cost of labor is much lower.
Yeah.
So, when the people say, well, Europe is going to take us out of the crisis, well, I don't quite see how the European Union is going to take us out of the crisis. I was last week campaigning for the No to Lisbon Treaty in Ireland, and I was telling these people that the European Union has brought no solution for the economic and financial crisis that Europe is going through, nor do they have any plan to do so. Things are getting worse because obviously having incorporated these eastern countries, the subsidies have to go to these people. and the industries are going to these people. And worse than that, Ireland is a country that has developed its economy up until 2002 out of a very favorable corporate tax for companies to invest there.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And once they ratify the Lisbon Treaty, they will not be independent to establish their own tax policy, which means they will have to abide by what the European Union decides, and therefore will not be able to give the companies this favorable corporate tax, and then will lose the investments.
Do you think that is what is going to happen if indeed they get a yes vote over in Ireland?
Yes. I mean, what I know is that if they get a yes vote, the Lisbon Treaty is going to be ratified, and the Lisbon Treaty provides for a common tax policy, which I find impossible, really.
Yes.
Because the level of, the economies of the different countries have different levels of development, and now with the crisis, this is obviously making the differences worse. So, for example, if you have read the court decision in Germany, the court decision by which the German Supreme Court allows the German government to ratify the Lisbon Treaty, they have clearly said that they will not accept interference on tax issues and social and welfare issues. So the Germans are protecting themselves.
Yeah.
What happens with the other countries who are ratifying the treaty, such as Ireland?
Yes, yes. So what is this evidence for to you? I mean, to me, it sounds like this idea of distribution of wealth, basically, and to me, it sounds like a more socialistic-run government. Is that the political agenda here, or do you have something else to say about that?
In Germany or in the European Union?
In the European Union, like overall, they're trying to distribute the wealth across the different countries here, right? That has to be the only solution, I guess, if they want to have a common tax reform, right?
Well, I don't see that they are going to distribute the wealth. They have opened the barriers for the eastern countries and other countries. Obviously, these countries are getting the subsidies and are starting to develop. With some concern, because some of them have quite corrupt governments. So we'll see in the end how the money is going to be used. It's not certain that it's going to be used properly. But it's not about now distributing wealth, it's about coming up with a solution to the crisis. It's about developing the industries. It's about, discussing globalization and to what extent globalization has to be in use or implemented in Europe. I mean, there are many difficult aspects to consider, but basically what I say is that they have the European Union is about a political elite who has been, enjoying a nice life here in Brussels,
yes,
and who aims at establishing a super state here and, acquire more power for themselves and make the decisions for the different countries, regardless of if the decisions are meant to distribute welfare or not.
Yes.
Which I think is not the case, and I think we will see things happening soon because now, because of the crisis, the gaps between the countries have been becoming wider, and they call this group of countries the pigs.
Yes.
Portugal, Italy, Ireland, and Greece and Spain.
Yes.
Well, let us see what's going to happen if these countries really cannot get out of the crisis. There's going to be a big gap in the budgetary stability, and therefore, this will bring questions about the possibility or the viability of continuing with the euro with these countries and a number of things.
Yeah. Do you think that other countries then, like Germany, for instance, will take the blow for this, or what you're saying is that they're getting out of this situation, so to speak? They don't want to pay for the pigs, so to speak.
Well, I mean, I'm not German, but my view is that the Germans have enough problems in their home. You know, the integration of the eastern parts